And the pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Digilu, affordable, safe sanitation for all. And this afternoon, we are starting from Ashaiman here in the Greater Accra region. And the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament is recommending the identification, prosecution of military personnel involved in the March 7, 2023 Ashaiman Dawn raid. The soldiers invaded Ashaiman community following brutal military invasion of parts of Ashaiman on Tuesday dawn, following the murder of a young soldier, Trooper Imoro Sharif. The Parliament committee set up by the Speaker took testimonies from the military and police top command, as well as the Defense and Interior ministers. My colleague, Kojo Brace, joins me for more details on the committee's report that we understand has been already been laid in Parliament, but yet to be taken on the floor for the necessary debate and recommendations to be done. Kojo, you're welcome to the policy on Joy News.
Thank you, Otto.
So let's start from the committee's report and the testimonies provided by the Military High Command.
So the Military High Commission was represented by the Defense Minister and the Chief of Defense Staff. Now, the Minister told the committee that the operation was carried out at Tulako and Taifa, which are suburbs of Ashaiman, and these places were declared no-go areas to the high level of criminal activities that had been occurring in those areas. Now, according to him, the military intelligence necessitated the need to flush out criminals in these areas, which had gained a reputation of being unsafe and dangerous to the extent that residents could not move freely, most especially in the evening. Now, the committee was informed by the minister that an individual took on the challenge of serving as a soldier in the Ghana Armed Forces. And once he or she does that, he or she swore to the state to die protecting the people of Ghana. But in this case, the soldier did not die in the line of duty. He noted that the deceased soldier was stabbed to death on Saturday, 4th March 2023 at about 2 a.m. The minister said that happenings in the community for a period of about 1 month had built tension within the barracks. So the minister then went on to indicate to the committee that there had been several incidents where civilians had brutally assaulted military personnel. He referred to a warrant officer of the Ghana Armed Forces who had been beaten and dragged on the floor by supposed land guards at Kaswa, and to another incident which took place in Bibieri in February 2023, where 2 soldiers were beaten up mercilessly. So, I mean, if you listen to this report, the minister is sort of creating the background on which this exercise was undertaken in Ashaiman. Now, the minister further clarified that the swoop was not to avenge the murder of Trooper Sheriff Imoro. He emphasized that the Ashaiman operation was not the first of its kind, as the military had carried out similar operations in Kaswa in 2019 and 2020, respectively.
So let's also talk about the Interior Minister and the IGP, their testimony before the committee.
Well, now the Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry, informed the committee that internal security was the exclusive preserve of the Ghana Police Service. He said history would show that the Ghana Police Service had collaborated with the military on several occasions to enforce internal security. And now, he says the continuous capacity building of the Ghana Police Service has greatly impacted internal security. He went on to indicate that caution should be taken when dealing with security matters in order not to allow impunity to thrive. He assured the committee that the police would take up the matter to ensure that effective internal security is maintained. This is where the IGP also comes in. Now, the IGP indicated to the committee that they were informed of the operation by the military. However, the police requested for more collaboration to strategize. Nonetheless, the police did not interfere with the operation as it was wholly a military operation. The IGP informed the committee that investigations into the robbery incident that resulted in the death of the trooper was ongoing. Now, the accused, Samuel Tete and Abubakar, who admitted to killing deceased, because all of this incident came about when Trooper Imoro Sharif was killed. Now, these 2 accused admitted to killing the trooper, and they have been arrested and were on remand. It also informed to be a robbery incident where some valuables of the deceased were stolen. We are made to understand by the IGP that a total of 6 persons were arrested in connection with the incident, and the Ghana Police Service had adequately briefed the family. of the deceased, Elton.
So what about recommendation that the committee is making to Parliament?
Well, there are a lot of recommendations that the committee has made for Parliament to consider. One, they say that persons brutalized by the military in Ashaiman on the 7th of March 2023 and who sustained various degrees of injury should be promptly and adequately compensated by the state. They go on to say that the compensation must be extended to cover those persons whose properties were destroyed in the course of the military coup. Again, the committee abhors any form of torturous handling of civilians by the military or any security services for that matter. The committee calls upon the leadership of the Ghana Armed Forces to educate their personnel on the legal demands and consequences of such act. The committee again goes on to recommend that soldiers who indulged in the excesses associated with the operation should be identified and dealt with in accordance with Section 32 of the Ghana Armed Forces Act 1962, that's Act 105, which stipulates that, quote, every person in the armed forces who behaves in a cruel or disgraceful manner shall be guilty of an offense and on conviction liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years or to any less punishment provided by this act, unquote. So there's more for us to be seen here. Now, the committee again recommends that the National Security Council should ensure that there's collaboration and coordination among the security agencies in the country, particularly between the armed forces and the police service, in the execution of their functions and duties. The committee entreats the security services to follow their respective mandates as provided by the law. Now, the committee again emphasizes that the involvement of the military in internal security operations must be a last resort. The police must, in all instances, be the lead agency in internal security operations. Now, the effective coordination of intelligence must be promoted at the National Security Council level to prevent recurrence of such excesses. The committee recommends that the Ghana Armed Forces work towards improving their relationship with the public to engender trust and confidence in the populace. So these are the recommendations that the committee is making in a way to improve on security within the country.
Right, a very comprehensive work done there by the Committee on Defense and Interior. Thank you very much. This in October, they are masters of their own rules. There has been times that they go to Parliament. There wasn't much to do yet. Movement has yet to be done on this report. Your initial reaction?
Well, what I would say, well, the committee, they've done quite a good job in trying to piece together what happened. Is going to the scene of the incident and speaking to some of the residents and engaging some of the people who, in fact, were directly, assaulted or they were beaten. They've done quite a good job. But my worry now is that, that somewhere, if you look at the recommendations, I think first on that, on top of it has to do with compensation, rightly so. But as we speak, how many years down the line, Ayawaso West Wagon victims, this was a public, inquiry, that was put together by the president. Unfortunately, victims of Ayawaso West Wagon who are supposed to have been compensated, how many years down the line? They have not been compensated. But I must also say that Ejura victims have been compensated. I think so. And so it is worrying, especially when we know that 2024 is an election year, and therefore there will be a lot of up and down movement by the executive and, in fact, the legislative arm of government. So I would have wished that the moment this thing got to Parliament, they would have prioritized it, ensure that some of the recommendations, or they would have seen to it that either they put it before the House, so that the House debated whatever outcome it is. They let all of us know, so that it doesn't become one of the committee reports that does not see the light of day, even though it's been presented. But I would say quite impressive, just that I think the committee could have done a good job with regards to what do you call that, compensation. It's be said promptly, promptly can be 10 years,
right.
Even though the word prompt means immediately. Promptly can be 10 years. So I would usually prefer you give some timelines. You say, okay, the moment the House finishes its work on it, maybe so and so time, you set some parameters and say the victims should be compensated. I think there are a few of them I will talk about how the compensation progresses.
Exactly, and because you brought in the issue of compensation, let me bring in Honorable Ernest Nogbe. He's a member of the committee and the MP for the area. In the report, you identified 247 people. You say that these were individuals who were attacked or brutalized by the military. Some got injured. We understand that some have even died. In terms of compensation, is it your understanding that until Parliament passes a resolution which may lead to possibly set up of an ad hoc committee, that matter cannot be discussed now? Honorable Nogbe, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Yeah, so I was asking, Dr. Bona brought in the issue of compensation. And looking at the report, you concluded that 247 people were injured in the process. We understand that some have even died. And I was asking, the committee failed to come to a conclusion on the matter of compensation. Is it your understanding that until Parliament passes a resolution on your report, which may lead to the setting of an ad hoc committee, the matter of compensation cannot be discussed now?
Well, rightly so. There are two things here. We could have gone to the court to enforce compensation we demanded for our victims. But now that it is before the House, we need to debate it so that the House will adopt it. Then the Speaker can even direct. All that were not captured. I heard Mr. Bona talking about the time frame. Speaker can direct that even it should be done within 2 weeks, 1 month, or 3 months. Speaker can direct, which was not captured in the report, but it's a directive from the Speaker.
But did you consider it at all? Did you consider it at all? Did you consider possibly?
Yeah, we considered a whole lot of things because one, it's not only Ashaiman. He rightly mentioned some areas of Ayawaso West Wagon,
Ayawaso West Wagon
incidents in some areas. Hello?
Yes, please go on.
And some other areas, but we considered it. But in all aspects, in all this, you have a member of parliament or you have a representative of the people in all these areas. So be it as may, if the report is saying that there should be a compensation promptly, it is left with the representative or the people to make sure that compensation is enforced. So as soon as Parliament adopts the report, and then the Speaker direct that ad hoc committee be formed so that they look at the quantum of compensation for each and every degrees of injuries. Some people lost even properties, some people bodily injuries, some people, psychological trauma, looking at the various degrees of injuries and then the quantum of the that it's not done within a specific period of time, we can go to the law court to enforce it, the human rights court to enforce it.
Sure. Let me bring in Dr. Dr. Let's look at the other recommendation that the committee came up with, and they established that indeed the operation was sanctioned by the Military High Command, and the reason being that it was based on intelligence that had been gathered because the area had been turned into headquarters of criminal activities in the area, and the fact that the military officer died in the process, they needed to act, and then said that the military should go ahead and identify the officers who were involved in the operation and punish them in line with the military-owned standard. Question is, somebody sanctioned them. The CDS may have been the one. Why not go straight and say that the CDS should be held responsible for what happened at Ashaiman, instead of saying that we should identify the military officers who were only acting on command?
Exactly. When your producer called me, these were my observations. Because mine is that a military officer will not just act just like that. And so somebody would have directed them somebody would have instructed them to go into the area to do what they do, to conduct operations. So if the operations led to excesses, you go for the person who did that, and then that person, if that person is so minded, going by their own training and operational manuals, they would see who and who misconducted, who and who performed not according to their, standard, operational methods. Then these people can be punished. But as it is now, you know what happened in the Aswansi 7. The Aswansi 7, when some police officers gunned down some innocent people in 2019 or where they're
yes, and paraded them as armed robbers.
And paraded them, and to the extent that they even came out and put some weapons on them. When a committee was set up, it was all lies. You see, it was difficult to identify, to say who were the shooters in terms of among the police officers who conducted that operation. Therefore, even though compensations have been paid to the victims' families, when a committee report like this comes out, I think that it is always important to highlight and take precedents into consideration and say, in Aswansi incident, the reason why no one was punished was because the report did not recommend to hold whoever sent these officers on that particular deadly patrols responsible. Therefore, you can only, let the entire team go. And so I would have wanted them to be specific. Say whoever directed them should be held responsible. Then if that person is so minded, that person would also hold the officers who are on the ground responsible. And so this is something that I would have wanted them to do. I don't know whether it is late. I'm sure when it gets to the plenary, it gets to the House, the debate probably would amend portions of the report if it is possible. The other thing I also noticed was where they said military officers should be educated on human rights, methods and all that.
Right.
It is good. I would have wanted them to say, because then it is difficult to say, let's get the Ghana police educated on human rights and rule of law, constitutional matters. I would have wanted to see something like adding it to their training manuals, human rights activity, human rights, the right of Ghanaians or human rights training should be part of their training manuals. Constitutionalism should be part of their training manuals, and letting them know the rule of law, how the rule of law must work. But mine is that I think somewhere in the report they highlighted, I think is it the Interior Minister and the Interior Minister,
right,
who specifically mentioned rightly that internal security at every given point in every democracy, including ours, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, remains within the police. It's something that the police takes care of in a country like ours. And so mine is that you also see somewhere in the report, I think is it the IGP?
Yeah, it is the IGP who said they had to move away because the military was involved.
They were notified, but they were not part of the actual operations. I have had challenges with such operations where the police is not involved. And my reason is that the military doesn't have prosecutorial powers, just as the national security. So if institutions that do not have prosecutorial powers undertake such operations, you are now going to gather evidence, arrest suspects. Do you know what will constitute evidence that can be adduced in court to prosecute somebody? Maybe you don't, because you have not been taken through processes in terms of processes and the evidence taken and all that. And so I would have wanted the report to also highlight the fact that it is sacrilegious for the military alone to conduct internal swoops such as these without the involvement of the police, because and you remember when this thing was undertaken, I think that somehow they were kept even away from the police. That way, we all know the 1992 Constitution, the Criminal Offences Act, Act 29, talks about citizens' arrest.
Right.
Citizens' arrest means, and it is highlighted, where private citizens can conduct an arrest. But over there, it says specifically that when a citizen effect an arrest, immediately the person should be sent to the police. That same law within the Act 29 says that the crime should have been committed in front of you if you are a private citizen. So when soldiers are conducting swoops such as this, when the police is not there and the crime has already taken place, in the law sees them as private citizens. And so mine is that they undertook something that, if you ask me, legally and constitutionally, I will tell you that we have accepted these as conventions.
Right.
But I must admit that we must learn moving forward so that those who commit crimes, when the soldiers have to aid the police to do swoops, the police must always be there so that they catch them with the evidence, gather the evidence, and prosecute them
right.
by the law. Because I must say that I don't know whether, and let me say,
and then I can get some reaction.
That morning raid, I think the police had already arrested some of the key suspects.
In fact, two of them.
Those key suspects. Yes, I don't know whether that morning raid has led to any identification of some of the people who were beaten to be primary suspects in the killing of the unfortunate killing of the trooper.
All right.
I think these are questions we should be asking.
Of course. Thank you very much, Dr. Adams Bona. This is The Pulse with me, Elton Broby.